want to talk a little bit, just for a second, about graphics and branding. So let's do it one more time.
What's up, beautiful?
So does anybody want to share something that you noticed about those few intro seconds? There's Snapchat glasses, yes. Not necessarily what I was going for, but lots of cuts, definitely. Over there.
Animated text.
Animated text. Yep, absolutely. Over here. Yeah, so there's both animated text, also animated shapes, and a color palette. Over here. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, so the video, that particular video is about creating videos, so she's got all the pieces of the production process. Last one. Yeah, definitely. So built-in animation for her logo. So does anyone have any ideas? I do, because we're talking about branding, I actually have a branded Adobe pillow. So if someone wants to say why you think branding matters, that's it. Yes, you can have the pillow. Yeah, so that other people can recognize you. I'll leave this up here. You can come grab it after. So branding is really important for a couple of reasons. It helps people recognize you once your content's over. It helps you build up a visual style. So it extends your brand image. It also helps increase engagement, especially having moving graphics on your screen. It's a little bit boring if you don't have any text. It actually makes your videos less accessible if you don't have any text at all on screen. For folks who maybe are hard of hearing, or just even when folks are on Facebook and you're scrubbing through, you really want to make a thumb-stopping video. If you're not listening to the audio, having some text on screen kind of captures engagement. I know, at least for me, I never have audio on when I'm on Facebook. I always just read, and if there's no text, I don't stop. And it also helps heighten production value. And so I'm really going to be focusing today on the piece about how you can heighten production value. So the session could probably really be called How to Up Your Graphics Game with Mogurts. And that begs the question, which is, what the heck is a Mogurt? Has anyone heard of a Mogurt?
Is it a motion graphic?
It is. It's a motion graphic. It's actually short for, it's not yogurt. It's not frozen yogurt, but it rhymes with yogurt. At least that's how I say it internally at Adobe. But it's actually short for a motion graphics template. And so I like to think of it as a very ugly word for a beautiful new file format. So we introduced motion graphics templates about a year ago in April of 2017. And they're really designed to help you up your graphics game without having to necessarily know how to do that yourself in After Effects or even in Premiere Pro, but also to help if you have access to a motion designer or if you yourself are an After Effects artist, it helps you be able to scale those workflows. For a quick show of hands, I'd just love to know who in here is using After Effects. Yes, okay, great. I was a little bit worried that when I jumped into After Effects, everyone would leave because it can be a little bit scary. It's a really powerful tool, it's super deep, and I'm really glad that we've got some After Effects users in here. And then who here has never used After Effects? A lot of people too, cool. Great, you are also in a good position because motion graphics templates help on both sides of the equation. So Mogurt short for motion graphics template, and basically motion graphics templates have the creative capabilities of After Effects, but they're really designed to be easily used and customized by Premiere Pro editors. If you've also been following some of the news that we announced here at VidCon, we announced a new project called Project Rush, which is a mobile and desktop application for video editing, really designed for online content creation, and motion graphics templates work in Project Rush as well. So kind of across the gamut, no matter what skill level you're entering, whether you're just kind of new to video and you're looking to increase your production value and you want to work really quickly on the go, that would be a way you could use motion graphics templates in Project Rush. If you're a Premiere Pro editor, we'll go into depth about how you can do that in Premiere Pro, both using templates from After Effects and also building your own in Premiere Pro. And then, of course, if you're an After Effects artist, this is really a way for you to think about how do you take something that you've created and make it so that you can use it more quickly yourself or share it with somebody else, especially when you think about channel branding, is if you're trying to build up the look and feel of your channel, you probably want to start thinking about what are some consistent colors, what are some fonts, what are some things about my style and about my unique voice on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook that really helps folks recognize me just outside of that one particular platform. How can I be consistent across them? You might want to start thinking about what are those different elements of your style, and then maybe locking those down so that you yourself are consistent across all your platforms. So let's see it in action. So again, I have these 2 seconds of Shameless Maya's video. These templates are actually templates you can get on Adobe Stock. We actually had them built by Valentina V for Shameless Maya, and we put them on Adobe Stock. So we'll go into my really ridiculous attempt at a vlog. And I'm here in the graphics workspace. So we're in Premiere Pro, we're in the graphics workspace, and we're in the Essential Graphics panel. So right here we've got two tabs. We've got My Templates, which is what any templates that you've downloaded or licensed or created yourself will be there in Premiere Pro. And we also have a way to access Adobe Stock. So I'm going to pop over there. Just really quickly, I've got this free button checked on because one of the things that I think is super important as you're trying to build up your graphics is that we know that a lot of creators don't have access to infinite budget and maybe don't have access to motion designers. So we wanted to make it possible for you to quickly just find stuff that was free. You can check that on or off. You can enter particular search terms. So if you wanted to find titles, or captions, these are all directly integrated, and all you have to do to put them in your project is drag and drop them. But I wanted to show you that one that we've been looking at from Shameless Maya. So hopefully my internet will. Cool, that's awesome timing. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna grab this floating shapes title. This will be something you should recognize from that video where she had this square thing that said Tech Talk. So I can just drag that into my project. And because it's free, I don't even have to do anything else. And I'll get into a bit more about how these are built in After Effects, but I wanted to show just how easy it is to start customizing them in Premiere Pro first. And there we go. So here, let's say that this is, let's do just what Shameless had, Tech Talk. Right there, we've got some options for how the animation style looks, so we can change how that animates in. There it kind of moves in a circle. I can also change that shape. I think I can make it a square. Yep. I can change the color. So right now it's that purple, but I could make it maybe like, I want to match it actually kind of to those blues in the background. Back there, and there. See, it's a little bit, I can make that a little bit brighter. This is something where if you had particular brand colors, you could also just enter like a hex value of your own colors and put them in. So you can do that. I can change the overall width and height of this. I can make the whole thing way bigger, the shape, I can do things. So basically, motion graphics templates, hopefully what you're seeing here, is that it's possible to build stuff in After Effects that can be really easily customized, and that you can have a lot of customization control in Premiere Pro. And that you can also get those things from Adobe Stock, and that there's a lot of options, and those are free. So now I've got a quick intro title here that's going to animate on my Tech Talk show, which is going to be way less exciting than Maya's. I'm going to trim that down. She also had those transitions, those shapes that were mentioned over here. Those are also available on Adobe Stock. And again, these are all for free because we wanted to help you kind of understand and find out about templates, and also these ones were so cute that Valentina made for Maya. And so right away, it's like my video without these is like just kind of some cuts, you know, from one thing to the next. And immediately, though I don't even have a story in this video, you can start to see that I'm starting to build up something that has a lot more production value. It's starting to look like something that's more engaging, and I think, you know, helping my audience have a bit more faith in the things that I'm trying to communicate to them. So what that looks like in After Effects, I just want to quickly show this one, is that in After Effects we've got, this is the, how this was all built originally. There's a lot of stuff in here. If you are not an After Effects user, this is always the part that kind of like freaks me out, is that there's a lot of stuff you can do. But what's cool about motion graphics templates and Essential Graphics and After Effects is that you can just click on this button in the Essential Graphics panel to solo supported properties, and it'll show you all the stuff that's already in your After Effects composition that you can start to templatize and use in a motion graphics template, and that'll give you that direct editing access in Premiere Pro with that simplified UI. So I'm going to go through and I'll show you how we actually build one of these. I'm going to close out this one and open a different project. So in this case, we're going to go back. I've got another video here. This one is from Ben Van Wong, directed by Valentina V. And I'm going to go through some of the templates that we actually have built. Well, I didn't build them because I am not a motion designer, but I can show you how to build them. And so in this one, it's taking a second to load here. It's got a bunch of text for the first name and the last name, and eventually, there we go. So it's coming in. It's something that's got a nice little white transition, the first name and the last name of, in this case, it's like a credit. And so here I'll say it's directed by Valentina V, who directed this video for Van Wong. And we've got controls for position. So where this is appearing on screen, all I have to do in Premiere Pro is just adjust it really quickly. I can change the scale of the whole thing. Let's make it a little smaller maybe. And I can adjust that rotation angle there. So how do we build this in After Effects? Let's go back to After Effects, and I'll just start with, this is the wrong one. So here again in After Effects, this is that whole composition. This is some of the stuff that's going on in it. When I hit Solo Supported Properties and open that up, you can see that there's a ton of stuff in here. So basically in After Effects, anything that can be controlled with a source text, a checkbox, a slider, a color picker, and now rotation angle, scale, and position, and point controls can all be added into a motion graphics template. And so to do that, I've got a couple of properties that are already up there. But you can go through and you can say, let's figure out what we want to add. So I've already got the title and the first name and last name and the position and the scale. So I want to go find, let's find the color. Is one of the ones that we had. So I can even just go find the color, and I want to find that edge wipe color. And so to bring it into your motion graphics template, all you have to do in After Effects is drag it up there. And then there it is. This is now something that becomes almost like a shortcut panel in After Effects. So you can actually go through, and it's probably a little dark to see that change, but it was white, now it's purple. Maybe I'll make it something brighter. But basically anything that you can put in here now becomes a shortcut panel in After Effects. So you can also think of this as a cool control surface within your After Effects project, where instead of having to go do and find that thing over and over again, you can quickly access it for continuous kind of tweaking and editing. You can also give this thing a name that maybe makes more sense, like edge wipe color. You can start to build out all the controls. These are all things that can be changed, so you're really building up the UI. So it's almost like you're building in After Effects an app to be used in Premiere Pro that has all of those different controls. I'm trying to remember what else is in. We've got the wedge controls, and then we've got the visibility. So let's see this checkbox. Cool, so whether this is on or off, so this is gonna be the visibility of the wipe. So again, this is something where now I've just got a quick handy control to turn that on and off. And when I'm ready to say that this is something that I'm ready to continue to use and I want to templatize either for myself or to use with a member of the production team, all you have to do is export a motion graphics template. If you're an After Effects user, you're probably pretty familiar with Dynamic Link. Dynamic Link is super, super powerful. It lets you bring an After Effects composition into Premiere Pro and then kind of continue editing it in After Effects and have those changes reflected in Premiere. This is a little bit different. It's kind of more like a new export file format. And so what this lets you do is you create a template that then can be dragged on again and again and kind of customized more in context. So it's a very fast export. So I'm gonna hit Export Motion Graphics Template. It's gonna quickly resave my project, all those changes I just made. And where's my little button? There we go. And so you can choose to save it if you want to save it to your local templates folder. That is a shared directory between Premiere Pro and After Effects. So if you're just working with yourself, this is probably where you'd want to save that. You can also save it to any other location on your local drive or a shared drive. And then you can also choose to save it into Creative Cloud libraries. And libraries are kind of, you can think of them almost like a live style guide for all the different kinds of content that you want. So you can have motion graphics templates, color palettes, PNGs, all sorts of stuff. So I'll save it just to my local templates folder. And then you have a couple of options too. If you want to sell your templates on Adobe Stock, this might be a great revenue stream for all of you folks who are using After Effects really effectively. You can basically create templates, upload them to Adobe Stock, and then you can start to get some revenue from when people download and license your templates. And then we also have a checkbox if you need to install After Effects to customize. So basically there's some effects, especially third-party plugins, that do require After Effects has to be on the same machine, but for the most part, almost everything that you can do in After Effects is now natively supported as part of a library within Premiere Pro itself, which is pretty cool and makes things a lot faster. So as I said, it's a really quick export. Don't blink because you might miss it. That's it, it's done. Like, that's it. So now if I go into Premiere Pro, again, I can go find it. I called it something with VidCon, so hello, there it is. And so there it is, ready to be dragged in and customized again. So it's super fast, should really be helpful. And then this is again, like, there's another copy of that same one. So that's pretty good, but I want to work on thinking about what's going to make this video more engaging is not just having this text about, you know, who directed it. Of course, we do want to give credit to all of the collaborators on it, but I actually want to start looking at like captioning this video. And so I'm going to go into Adobe Stock again and grab, look for some captions and see what we've got here. And so I can go through, I can get more information about these templates before I have to license them. I can see, you know, what's customizable about them, how big are they, things like that. I can go through and just see all the different stuff that's available to me. This one I really like for this. It's kind of a sporty look. So I'm going to go ahead and license that one. It's not, this one wasn't free, but I did license it before. If you wanted to get something that was not free, it's super easy to do that as well. You just drag it in, and if you have any credits with Adobe Stock, it'll just use one of your licenses. And if you don't have any credits, it'll give you an option to purchase it. But I'll just cancel out of that for now. Okay, so here I am. Again, this is another template that came from Adobe Stock. So I've got those really simplified controls here for customizing these. So I want to do, let's say that if I'm doing this for my video, I want to say a little bit more information so that folks who are watching that video and maybe not playing it with sound can get a sense of what's going on. So this is Von Wong, and he likes to hang off tall buildings. He is crazy. And so now I can do things like change where this highlight color is on this one. This is a pretty sophisticated template. I can move my text, let's see, it's left over there. I want to move my text more to be, there we go, more centered. Play around with the size of it, maybe like a little smaller. Not that small. Come back. Okay. Oh God. Like, it's easy and I can't use a slider. That's a very good demo. So here we go. So now I've got that. I can play around with how these texts are highlighted, and that all looks really great. So that's something that's, if you're in a pinch and you just want to be starting to put graphics in, it's going to be really helpful because you don't have to even really think about it. Like, I had to do here is just put my content, you know, just go in and put my own words, tweak some of the different parameters that are available, and I'm like good to go. But there's probably going to be cases too, especially since we do have a lot of Premiere Pro users, where you might want to build something that's a bit more custom. And so it's possible to do all of this in Premiere Pro as well, using the type and shape tools in Essential Graphics. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to close this guide down here. And so now that I've got, like, I think this is a really good starting place. I want to use this template. I really like that animation. But maybe I want to keep building the rest of my text to be similar to this. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to move my playhead over here. And I'll start typing in some of the things. So maybe I'll just do, are you scared of heights? So I'm going to go figure out, I want to use that same font, that same look as is in this one that I got from Stock. I'm gonna go check out what that font was. It said Roboto Black. So I'm gonna go make sure that my new graphic I'm building uses that here. So in Premiere Pro, you can, I'm sure a lot of folks are still using the legacy titler. I've been talking to some folks and everyone kind of is familiar with that workflow. Again, about a year ago, we introduced a new type tool and shape tool that lets you type in the program monitor. And that really came from feedback from a lot of our users, was that the legacy titler was kind of like, it's called legacy for a reason. It's like 25 years old and it looks like it's 25 years old. And so we wanted to make a new workflow. So I'm gonna go find that Roboto font here. And so one of the things that I think is, just as a tip, is because I have heard that folks haven't found the text tool stuff, is that if you're in like the editing workspace or even like the assembly workspace, which you might be in, and you use the type tool, it kind of looks like there's not that much you can do with it. And that's because we designed a graphics workspace especially for working with it. And so if that's one of the reasons why you haven't switched, all you have to do is click over to the graphics workspace. I've got a custom workspace I'm going to switch into for my laptop. And so once you've got this open and you go into the Edit tab, that's where you start to get like all the controls that you'd be familiar with from like Photoshop and After Effects, where you can really start to build up that text in Premiere Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move that text down. I like that font, but again, if I'm using this as kind of a style inspiration, I want that to be all caps. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on the all caps button, and I also want to put some background on that so it'll pop. So if I hold down on the pen tool up here, I can grab a couple different shape tools. I'm going to get the rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle shape. Just like in Photoshop, it starts to build like a layer stack. And I assume most of you folks are familiar with Photoshop, similar in After Effects as well. So I can move this shape underneath that text. I can change that fill color. Let's do black. And so now I'm starting to get something that looks a lot more professional and a lot more kind of similar to that style that I liked from the stock video. I can also do things like, maybe I want to change this word here, make it red, really emphasize, you know, being scared, because I'm super terrified of heights, even more terrified than I am of presenting. And so you can start to do that. So now that's starting to look really good. If this is a style of text that I like, I can actually create a text style from it. And then this will be something that I can use again and again. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll say this is like my Roboto bold caps, something that helps me remember what's going on. But that could be something like if you wanted to start building up different captions, now you'd have a style that you can use. And then anytime you make a change to this, let's say like I change everything in it, I go from all caps, I just go to regular. It notices that I've made a change, and any other text layer in my video that uses this style, I can then push that change up to those other ones so they all match with a single click, or I can also sync it back down. Let's say I didn't really like that change, I can sync it back down. So one of the things that's cool that happens with titles a lot is that as you have more text, they grow. Like, so if this is Ben Von Wong, the background behind him, it actually got longer. And so that's something that you can actually really easily do in Premiere Pro right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that shape layer. This is part of the set of responsive design features that we introduced a couple months ago. So with that shape selected, there's this whole section here called responsive design position. And you can either choose to pin something to the video frame, which means that as you go from different sequence sizes, maybe you've got 1920 by 1080 for your YouTube channel, but you're using like a 1080 by 1080 or 720 square on Facebook or Instagram, or even going to vertical for Instagram, you can quickly make it so that your graphics will respond and automatically reflow. You can also pin different shapes to each other, which means that if I pin this shape to that text layer I made, are you scared of heights? I can pin it on all four sides. And now this shape layer is tracking this text layer. So it's looking to that for its scale and its position. So if I move my text layer over here, the box comes with it. If I change what the text says, Maybe I want it to be, you know, I'm scared of heights. It's something that you can see that the text box is growing and shrinking with it as we change the text. And that's super cool because now if I want to animate this text, I only have to animate one thing. I don't have to animate both the text box and the text itself. So let's do that, and I'm going to quickly just pin this text layer to the video frame. I'm going to pin it on the left side there and on the bottom because I kind of wanted to keep that relationship to the video frame at the beginning. So now to start animating this in Premiere Pro. So I'm going to start, let's say I want this graphic to start over here. We've been really interested in figuring out how are some ways that we can be saving you time. Motion graphics templates as an entire concept is kind of derived from that idea that where if you are in After Effects, we know it can take a lot of time to get stuff set up. This really helps you extend your workflow. And it's the same thing in Premiere Pro. When we look at like the responsive design features, it's all about how do we help you create graphics that can start to evolve as your creative vision is developing. So in this case, I want to start animating this text. Let's say I want it to fly in. All of these buttons over here under Align and Transform are now animation toggles. So if you're used to using the Effect Controls panel, it's the same thing as toggling the stopwatch in the Effect Controls panel. So here, if I want to have that text, I want it to fly in, and then I want it to fly out. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the animation for position. It's going to turn it blue. That's how I know that it's on. And now, anytime I'm changing the position, it's actually going to record keyframes. And I'll open up Effect Controls just so you can see what it's doing as I do it. And you can see that, as I said, the stopwatch is already turned on over here too. It's the same action. So first, I want to zoom out of this a little bit, and I want to make that text fly out. So I'm going to go back to the beginning where I want this text to be flying away from here. So I'm just going to drag it out. And now we'll watch that back. And you can see that that text is now flying in. It drops some keyframes over there. And then I want to go toward the end. I want it to fly away. I'm going to drop one keyframe really quickly and then go back to the end of the clip. And again, I'm going to click on that. And I'm holding down Shift so that it'll draw a straight line of frames. And now I've got quickly, it goes in, it holds on screen for a couple of seconds, and then it flies out. Now, if I want that animation to look a little bit better, you can add some ease in and ease out. So I just right-clicked on that keyframe, and I can do things like go and look for adding some curves. I'm going to add an ease out, so that as it's easing out of that transition, it's going to smooth it so it lands a little bit more smoothly. And then we'll ease this one as well, so that as we're moving into that next phase of motion, it's a bit smoother. And you'll notice that that text box, I didn't even have to do anything to. It's just going along for the ride, which is really cool. If you were to copy and paste this into After Effects, let me make a new composition and get rid of that guy that's in there, and open this up, it actually goes in and generates those keyframes for you. So I can go into my controls here, oops, and see it's scale. Come on, there we go. My scale and position, you can see it actually generated all the expressions that I created in Premiere Pro. So this is something that's super helpful if you're someone who's working between both applications. You can start to kind of visually build up the feel, or if you have like another producer or maybe the talent on your channel, it's like, oh, I kind of want it to look like this. They can start to build that with that visual UI in Premiere Pro and then hand it over to you in After Effects, and you've got a really solid starting point for continuing to develop that work. So that's all there. The other piece that we think is important with all of this is that if I animated this and it comes on and it comes off, but if I actually wanted this to be shorter, like I actually don't want it to be exiting the screen on this frame, I want it to exit maybe where they're actually kind of on the building and not the freeze frame of the photograph. If I were to trim this, you'll see that over here, I've lost all that animation work that I did. It's just cut off. It goes in, and it's just gonna kind of end. It just pops off the screen. So that's not really ideal. I actually liked those keyframes that I had. Same thing, if I wanted this to be longer and I extended it, they're just, they're just gone. The thing's already exited the screen, so it doesn't matter that I extended it. So what's really cool is that you can add what we call responsive design time, where you can actually start to specify intro and outro durations for your entrance and exit effects in Premiere Pro, and it will protect all the keyframes that you have. So you can either do that by just typing like the number of seconds and frames that you want to preserve. I can start with like 2 seconds, and you can also use the effect controls window over here to also kind of visually decide like what's protected. So I'm just going to protect those 2 sections that have the keyframes in them so that they're kind of protected there. And now you'll notice that on my timeline, it's got these little grayed out areas, and that's indicating that this is an intro section and that's an outro section. It's a little easier to see when it's not selected. And again, in effect controls, it's showing you that there. So now, if I make this longer, it still comes in. It just holds on screen longer now. That's what that darker region is. And then it exits. Same thing, so I actually wanted to make that shorter. So I can make it shorter. Now it's going to fly in with the same timing and then quickly exit. And so that's something that you can play with that timing and really start to preserve all the stuff that you're doing. It's possible to do this all in After Effects. It is a lot of expressions. This one actually has, this template I found actually does have some of these controls in it. The person who made it made this amazing timing guide preview where you can change the duration and stuff. That is way beyond my particular skill in After Effects. As you saw, I don't have that many skills in After Effects. But this is something that in Premiere Pro is super easy for me to do, and it also helps me, again, communicate with that motion designer who knows maybe how to do that or has the chops to figure out how to. So that is how that works. And then, as I said, I also wanted to make a square version of this video, like a square cut down version for Facebook. And so if I wanted to save what I've just done, I could copy and paste it, but then I have to remember, especially if I want to have the kind of the same look and feel across different videos, I would have to remember kind of where that was. So you can save your graphics that you're making in Premiere Pro as motion graphics templates too. So that means that you can start to build up a brand library of kind of like, here's what I like to do for callouts, here's what I like to do for captions. And whether you're doing that in After Effects or Premiere Pro, you can use that as a library. So once you've kind of built something that you like, you can either right-click on it and go to Export a Motion Graphics Template, or you can also go up here to Graphics and export it as a template. And so we'll say that this is like a kind of caption Von Wong for this thing. I'll save it again to my local templates folder. I can include a little video preview here, and then I can also add some other keywords. So I could say like captions, bold, call out, whatever, whatever kind of fits with this. It'll add all of those as tags that I can use to search for it later. I hit OK. And it will write that template. And now when I go over here and look for my caption, there it is, my caption from Von Wong. And again, I can just drag and drop it to another location, and now I can start to customize this again. And so I don't want to say in this one, I want to do something kind of clickbaity, so like this photographer isn't. Or something, something like that. And it's, again, that box is changing with me. That animation is still preserved. Those relationships are all intact. And if I go to my Facebook square sequence, I can also drag that in, and it'll refactor to make sense in a square format. So it's kind of scaled down to make sure that it fits, and that it's kind of respecting the animation and the distance of that new sequence size. So I think those are a couple of things that might help as you're thinking about what do you want to have as your different styles across your different social outlets. How can you use text to really tell that story? Yeah, so then we also, was kind of building on that idea. So if I wanted to go through and say, maybe I want to caption this and make this video a little bit more accessible, I can also start to think about what are some other caption styles that we might like to have in this video. And so here he's saying, I can't help but wonder if this is a challenge. And so I can go through, type that all up. Maybe I want to change a couple different font styles here, so I will just go make that a little bit smaller, and maybe I want to do, I wonder if this is a challenge. Oh wow, I really can't spell. It's challenges to spell. I wonder if this is a challenge. And so again, this is a text here. I can go through and I'll make a new master style for this, and I'll call this like my caption style here, so that next time I go here, and maybe I make another one, this will be challenge accepted. I can go through and again parent it to that style I already created. Now if I go back and later in my videos I decide actually I don't want to do this font at all, I want it to be more of that same style that we were using before, and maybe I want it to be all caps again or small caps. It notices that that style's been modified, so when I push it back up it will now edit this one too, without me having to go through and do that to each one individually. So that's something that can be super helpful if you're trying to build up your branding and kind of make things more consistent throughout your video. You just set up those relationships as you're starting, and that'll help. And if you forget to, once you created a caption style like that, you can also just drag and drop it on from your project panel, and it'll update it and include all the things like the alignment, the positioning, the style, and the font. So it's really quick to also kind of do it retroactively as well. Here, you can add, when you make your text in Premiere Pro, you can add like an image as a layer. So I can go through and you can choose from file. Let me see, I've got an Adobe Creative Cloud logo. So then it just comes in, just like how in Photoshop you'd be used to seeing it as another layer in your stack. It's there. All the buttons that were, I'll turn off the text for a second. All the buttons that I showed you before that do position, scale, opacity, rotation, are still buttons that toggle animation as well. So for instance, if I wanted this to rotate in, I can just click on the rotate button. Now as I scrub through, any changes I'm making to this as I go along is dropping keyframes for the rotation property. So I can go through and it'll go here. This is going to be a really beautiful animation, you guys, I can tell. Probably get in trouble with Adobe branding for what I've done to this. But it starts to go in and you can just start to, you can start to do things like that. It's really quick to just go through and kind of over time change that. And again, if you wanted to then smooth out that animation, that's where you can go through and either quickly add like an ease in or ease out. You can also get more fancy with like your Bezier curves and like actually use your pen tool to create more sophisticated ramps of animation. Let me show you something that's gonna blow your mind.
If I don't have to click a bunch of twirl down menus to change the same stuff all the time, that would be amazing.
So there's something in After Effects that's new in the latest release called Master Properties, which is really incredible. And so let's start here with one of these compositions. So this is an example of, so normally if you're working in After Effects and you have a bunch of stuff that you like, a composition you want to use multiple times, you have to duplicate it a bunch of times. So one of the things that we added in the last release to After Effects is something called Master Properties. So you can use this Essential Graphics panel to basically decide what's important to your project. And then you, just like I showed you before, you would drag them up from your timeline window into Essential Graphics. Now, when you nest that title into another project, so in this case I've got, so we're here looking at, let's see, master title, and I've brought all the properties from this master composition for the seam position, the seam angle, the slice gap, the color and stuff. That's all in here. And when I nested that composition, well, not me, when whoever built this nested that composition, now you get this thing that shows up called master properties. And so anything that you put in that panel is now available in context in your timeline. I should have started with this for all the After Effects people. And so now when I've got this version, you know, I can see that this text is a different color than the original text was blue, this one's pink. It shows that it's different, and I can either sync it back down from that master composition if I want to go back to the blue. It'll make it there, or I can also push this change and make the other one pink, so now when I go here, that one's pink too. So it's going to really help you keep things in sync and then also make tons of variations. Master properties. That's all that we have time for. Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it.